Man, the post-apocalypse can be such a drag. Today's review, I'm going to be talking about Tank Girl. This is a 1995 bomb, which today may or may not have a cult following. If it indeed does, tell me where to apply for this cult. I love the movie. It is March on Demand. I'm taking your requests for movies to review. This request comes from Joe Schreiber. Thank you very much for your recommendation, Joe. So let's talk about Tank Girl a little bit, huh? Of course, based on a comic book of the same name, Tank Girl, starring Lori Petty as the titular character, Tank Girl, Academy Award nominee Naomi Watts, playing her sort of sidekick, Jet Girl, as well as a villain in Malcolm McDowell, chewing the scenery, of course. Even special appearances by Ice-T and Iggy Pop. Iggy Pop has a small cameo in the movie, too. It's directed by Rachel Talalay, who perhaps is best known for her work in various roles of the productions of the Nightmare on Elm Street films, most notably, of course, directing Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Now, Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare, I always kind of thought that was a little bit too cartoony of a movie, but I mean, with something like Tank Girl, based on a comic book, kind of this larger-than-life, silly kind of thing, I mean, that seems like an ideal match. And, you know, for what it is, for what it's worth, I think at least Talalay's approach to the movie works. I really do. But part of me, I'm always kind of struggling with whether or not I just kind of view this as like, you know, a guilty pleasure, or if I do legitimately think it's a good movie. It's hard to say because, I mean, you could argue, oh, there are no guilty pleasures. You know, if you like it, you like it. That's it. So I mean, you can think about that, but I mean, the movie it is ridiculous. It's so stupid. Kind of from that era where, you know, I mean, not that studios, you know, trying to scoop up comic book properties, trying to make the next big hit. Not all of them know what they're doing today either, but the ones who know what they're doing are doing a good job of it. So I mean, there is that. But during this era, what like we had after, you know, kind of Batman, always kind of this next big comic book property needs to be made into a movie. Well, we had The Crow, that worked, and I talked about that previously this month. What was it? The Phantom. Shaq in that Steel with Shaq in it. Great movie. Yikes. Even like Judge Dredd or something like that. So I mean, these movies, they have a habit of being these overproduced, overblown disasters, and Tank Girl is. It really is. It is this overblown Hollywood movie, which has a muddled plot, mostly due to studio interference. Not a lot of it makes too much sense. I mean, the basic plot of it is this: you know, we have a post-apocalyptic world, not unlike, say, if I can compare it to another movie, like Barbed Wire, maybe. Let's compare it to that. But in this particular instance, the post-apocalypse is caused by an asteroid that hit the Earth, caused a drought. It hasn't rained for 30 years, so of course, as they often do, the big corporations, they rule the world, which they do already, right? Water and power, they control all the water, so they have their, you know, grip on the whole world, or at least the United States. Maybe, you know, the asteroid just hit the States, and, you know, we're up here in Canada, we're doing fine. Civilization moves on. Anyway, of course, and that's Malcolm McDowell. He's the head of the organization, and there are people out there who try to get their water for free, try to sneak it past the big corporations, you know, siphon the wells, put in the pipes, you know, there's drainage, you know, in the pipes, so they get their water, get their wells. And that's the case with Becky, who's Tank Girl, and she's living in, you know, their little isolated shack in the middle of the desert with, you know, her friends, her boyfriends, some little kids running around, stuff like that. Big organization, Water and Power, they catch wind of their little siphoning, and they raid the shack. They kill everybody. They kidnap the girl, and they kidnap Tank Girl as well. But then they kind of realize, hey, she's like killing all our men and beating the shit out of people, and she's kind of a badass. So maybe we can use her for our organization. It's kind of about the Malcolm McDowell trying to break her, trying to torture her, get her to stay, put in, you know, the mines and Water and Power, and, you know, get her to work for them. she tries to escape. There's escape attempts. There's trying to save the little girl, and there's joining like a resistance movement with these half man, half kangaroo creatures called Rippers. These Stan Winston makeup creations, and indeed one of them is Ice-T in full kangaroo makeup. So it's fucking ridiculous, this movie. But what I'll say makes the movie work. What I'll say makes this good. What I'll say makes me love this movie is Lori Petty. Lori Petty is magnificent in this movie. She's brilliant in this movie. She is Tank Girl. And I think, because of the, probably I'd say the less than shining reputation of the movie, a lot of people do cite this as, one of the biggest disasters, or at least one of the shittiest movies of at least the 90s. Even like it's been said that Naomi Watts is absolutely ashamed of the movie. Because of that, I think a lot of people lose sight of just how perfect the casting was for Lori Petty. She absolutely, she's the comic book character come to life. She is Tank Girl in every way, shape, and form. So, not too often we'll see her like on these lists of, the best comic book castings. Oh, Ryan Reynolds, he's perfect as Deadpool. Hugh Jackman, perfect as Wolverine, or Tobey Maguire, perfect as Spider-Man. No, nobody says that. No, I'm just kidding, Toby. I love you. So I mean, she gets overlooked quite a bit, but I think this is one of the most perfect instances of someone being cast in a comic book role. She's, and when we look at this character and when we look at the attitude of this character, it's the attitude that makes the movie run along. The plot is secondary, because the plot makes no fucking sense anyway. It's like almost like you ever just have like a really weird dream, and of course it doesn't quite make sense, but you kind of pick together pieces of a sort of a semblance of a plot. That's this movie. That's the plot of this movie, basically. But it's her attitude that moves it along, and in the way that she really doesn't take anything all too seriously. She has that attitude. She is this cool, badass motherfucker 90s chick who's just kind of along for the ride, always with a quip here and there, always with a smart-ass comment here and there, always with a, I guess, like current pop culture reference, at least current in the 90s, even though it's 30 years in the future kind of thing. It's fun in that sense. So I think it's her attitude and the fact that she's basically winking at the camera the whole movie, and as if to say, we know this is stupid, don't take this seriously. So I think that's what makes it work, and I think she is absolutely incredible in the role, and I love her. And if I had a daughter, I'd be like, watch Tank Girl, you will love Tank Girl. That's what I feel, and with these, where are we at now? I mean, I guess is maybe different at the time. Maybe they weren't trying to make a statement at the time, but yeah, there's always an issue with female representation in a movie. But here we have this movie where, I mean, the main character is a woman. It's directed by a woman. She's this fucking cool badass and not overly sexualized. She's really not. I mean, like, she like has a wardrobe change every scene in the movie, and she has a lot of fun with that. But she's not like, well, to bring back barbed wire again, she's not like skimpily dressed and titillate the male audience. This is, I honestly do think this is a female character that a lot of girls could look up to. I really do, and I, watching this movie, I fell in love with her. I really did. I love Tank Girl. One disappointing thing though is, like, I don't own the movie. I have a digital copy, but I don't own it on like DVD or Blu-ray or whatever. I was really excited because it was like about 2 years ago. They're like, we have a collector's edition Blu-ray coming out, but it wasn't a director's cut, which I'm holding out for that director's cut because, I mean, obviously there was studio interference. A lot of stuff was cut out, particularly like with the latter half of the movie with like the Rippers and stuff. They wanted to stray away, I guess, from kind of the relationship between Tank Girl and one of the Rippers, where it is more of a romantic relationship, more of a sexual relationship. Apparently, they, got Stan Winston Studios to mold, to craft, to assemble, make a giant kangaroo Ripper dick, a prosthetic penis, and to film it for like kind of like a post coitus scene where they're lying in bed, but he still has a big raging hard on. But they're like, studios are like, what? You can't, what? No, cut it out. So circumcise it. So they cut that out of the movie. But I want to see that. I want to see that version. I want to see that vision of the movie. This is, I guess if no holds barred is an expression, I suppose bars are held in this version of the movie, if that is an expression. Um, so it feels a little bit restricted. Feels just a tiny bit tame when we could have seen a little bit more. But as it is, I do love the movie. I love the attitude, and I don't even want to give away too much. So what can you really give away except for kind of those funny one-liners, except for kind of the dialogue exchanges, which are precious. So I don't want to give any of those away. But there's some really funny lines from Tank Girl in the movie. So for that alone, I highly highly recommend seeing the movie. But still, at the same time, I'm holding out for that Blu-ray director's cut special edition. I really hope we see it someday. If there's a petition, tell me where to sign. I want to sign it. If there's a cult, tell me where to sign up for the cult of Tank Girl. I love the movie. So thank you very much for your recommendation, Joe. That's my review of Tank Girl. I think it's kind of underrated, underappreciated, not a disaster, but if it is, it's a disaster in the best kind of way, with a character who doesn't really give a shit and talks a fair amount of shit about against a ridiculous movie, and they're almost winking at the camera, and they know they're in a ridiculous movie, basically. So it is March on Demand. I'm still taking your requests. I'm going to put a link to the video below if you want me to review a movie. Comment in that video. Let me know. Until then, give me a thumbs up if you like this review. Comment, rate, subscribe, all that good stuff. Visit Derek237.com. And until next time, I'll see you later.